Now we have another very exciting talk from Bianca Buzea from LUKSO, and we're going to be talking about enabling innovation, the developer community catalyst. So I'd like a huge round of applause, please. Oh, no. Sorry, what? Okay, a huge round of applause, please, for Bianca.
Some very energizing music. ETH Bucharest. When people ask me what I do and I say developer relations for a Web3 protocol, I see the confusion in their eyes. However, when I take a slightly different approach and instead I talk about key initiatives or activities we do in order to grow the developer community, it's a whole different story. Today, I want to embrace the second approach and tell you about some of those key initiatives and activities that we implemented at LUKSO to grow the developer community. However, those can be used to other developer communities as well. In fact, one of my goals for today is that after this talk, you go away with at least one key activity that you're going to implement in your own developer community. OK, let's see how this works. There we go. So a few words about myself. My name is Bianca Buzea. I'm head of DevRel at LUKSO. LUKSO, it's a layer 1 for creative economies. And also, I'm the founder of DevRel Uni. In terms of today's agenda, we're first going to look at what is LUKSO and what's the user experience, because that's super important when you want to plan how you want to grow your developer community. You first need to understand the user experience. Then we're going to look at universal profiles. Those are the smart contract-based accounts on LUKSO. So we're going to have like the holistic understanding first. And then we're going to have some key lessons across 4 areas: feedback, documentation, events, and community. All right, the user experience. So first, what is LUKSO? You might ask, like, yet another layer 1, why? Well, before answering that question, I want to talk a bit about the status quo right now in crypto. So right now, your blockchain account is a key. It's an EOA, externally owned account. That's like the fancy name of it. What does it mean? Well, there are certain disadvantages that come with that. The first one is that if you lose that key, that's it. Game over. All your assets are gone. Also, you can't react on anything. It's just a key. It doesn't have any sort of logic. Also, when it comes to permission controls, it has no permission controls. Again, either you have your private key or you don't. And last but not least, it requires the blockchain native token in order to do any sort of action on the blockchain. So now imagine the following scenario. You're here at ETH Bucharest, and you brought with you a friend who's new to the space. And they get super excited. They go home, and they're like, OK, I want to start interacting with the blockchain, do my first transaction. Well, let's see what they need to do. First, they need to go to a centralized exchange in order to get some funds. After they go there, they need to go for the KYC process. They need to usually go for their bank to get funds on the centralized exchange. That can take, if you're going for the bank, 1 or 2 days. It depends. Then once the funds are there, they can purchase the native token. Great so far. Next step, they need to transfer those to a non-custodial wallet, such as MetaMask. After all this process, finally, they can start doing what they intended from the beginning, start interacting with the blockchain. If this feels to you like a long process, well, that's because it is. Now, with LUKSO, we took a slightly different approach. LUKSO operates with smart contract-based accounts. This means that your account on LUKSO, it's a smart contract. And let's see what that means. So first, it offers a Web 2-like experience. You can see here one of my universal profiles. Again, these are the smart contract-based accounts on LUKSO. And you can see that I was able to add a profile picture, a cover photo. I have like links, tags. I can add as much metadata as I want. Also, it has upgradable security. What does it mean? So I can have multiple devices with different permissions. So I can have, let's say, my laptop, which I want to be more generous with the permissions. And I'm going to allow this device to be able to transfer funds. However, with my phone, I want to be more conservative. So when it comes to my phone, I'll only allow this device to update my metadata. Another one, you can react on incoming assets. That's another benefit. So now you can implement mechanisms such as whitelisting or blacklisting. So you decide the addresses with which you want to interact and receive assets. And the last one, and in my opinion, the most powerful one, it offers a gasless experience. So what does it mean? From the point of view of the user, the experience feels gasless. And that's because under the hood, there is a transaction relay service that subsidizes users' gas. So every month, you get 20 million in gas, and you can use it as you want. You also get 6 universal profiles on mainnet for free. Now that I offered you a glimpse into the user experience and what you can do, and we kind of set the layer of where we build, I'm going to start talking about the key activities we implemented to grow the developer community. The first stop I want to make is about feedback. I want to talk a bit about gathering feedback, and most importantly, about feedback loops. Here, I presented 2 mechanisms for gathering feedback. The first is one-on-one interviews with builders. This is rather qualitative. So when you're doing one-on-one, usually you have a specific purpose in mind. Let's say you want to see how builders like and how easy it is for them to interact with your SDK. So to do that, you're going to ask them open-ended questions. And also, you shouldn't be afraid to probe for more details whenever needed. Now, one-on-one interviews go hand in hand with some qualitative feedback. And here I recommend surveys. My personal preference is quarterly surveys because I think 3 months, it's a decent amount of time between surveys to actually have some meaningful change and measure that change. So when it comes to surveys, here are some recommendations. You want to keep it concise. And usually, it's best if you implement those as anonymous to actually allow people to give you honest feedback. Also super important here, you should act on insights and communicate the results. And this applies both to your team. You need to let your team know about those insights and help them shape the roadmap based on those insights, but also when it comes to communicating back to your community. So after you implement different activities to enhance the experience, you go back to your community and you say like, hey guys, we heard you, this is what we've done. The next topic I want to talk about is documentation. But before we talk about documentation, it's important to look a bit at user personas. So now that we talk about feedback and how you gather all this information about your builders in the ecosystem, you start identifying key scenarios. And based on those key scenarios, you start identifying roles within your community. Here I gave you an example for LUKSO. We identified, I present here 2 of the personas. One is a smart contract developer, and the second one is a DApp developer. So with that in mind, having these personas in mind, we can move forward and have specific learning journeys. So the smart contract developer will have one journey in the documentation, the smart contract developer, another one, and someone who wants to become a validator, another path. Now, when it comes to the documentation, structuring the documentation, my personal preference is the DVO framework. I like to explain this framework by using analogies from cooking and food. I think we all like that, well, at least the food part. So the first part of the framework are tutorials. Those are learning-oriented. So back to our analogy, if you think you want to teach a kid how to cook, what is important is not like what you cook with the kid. What is important is that the kid enjoys the process and they want to do it again in the future. Next category are how-to guides. These are rather problem-oriented. So back to our analogy, imagine you want to teach the kid how to cook a specific dish. Let's say you want to make pizza. Well, in order to make pizza, you need to follow certain steps in a specific order. You can't bake the pizza if you don't have the dough. Third category is technical explanation. This is rather understanding-oriented. So think about here about a book that describes the relationship between healthy cooking and human health. And finally, last stop is technical reference. So back to our analogies, think here about a Wikipedia page on a given ingredient, let's say garlic, and you're gonna see on that page its scientific name, its properties, how it interacts with other ingredients, etc. Now, also equally important when it comes to documentation is to look at your analytics and the search behavior of your users. Internally, we'll use Algolia, but there are so many solutions out there. And this is key because first you can see where your builders are originating from. You can see their geography. And based on that insights, you can say, for example, okay, we see that we don't have as many developers in Africa, for example. So maybe we do next an event in Africa or an activation there. Similarly, you can look at different metrics. You can look what search terms people are looking for, what's the search volume. You can look at other metrics such as no results pages, click positions, etc. In our case, looking at those, we were able to diminish the no results rate from around 9% to 3.7%. That's a pretty good decrease, and we did all that just by using synonyms. So very easy. Next one are events. So here I want to talk a bit first about hackathons. When you want to plan a hackathon, the first question you need to ask yourself is, okay, do I want an online hackathon or a virtual one? And there are some key differences here. Online hackathons are rather long in period. You can have them up to 1 month, whereas in-person hackathons are usually like 1 or 2 days. Also, online ones, you can have a broader reach, people all over the world. However, that's a bit more tricky when you have in-person ones because people need to travel to a specific date at a given time, etc. You can see here some of the metrics we got with online hackathons. Those specifically worked really well for our community. However, based on what are your goals with the hackathons, sometimes for you might be better an in-person one. For example, if you want to have like really meaningful connections with your community, or if you want to do hiring, then in person, it's really great. Next, I want to talk about signature events. Here, I'll explain a bit about Meetup. That's our builder event. We did one Meetup number 1 during Berlin Blockchain Week last year, and Meetup number 2 during DevConnect at Istanbul, and some alpha. Meetup number 3, it's coming this year in May during Berlin Blockchain Week again. And the last stop I want to make, it's about community. It's super important, no matter how big is your team, let your community amplify your initiatives. And you can be very creative with that. I'm going to give you some examples. The first one is to help you with your events. Here are our community members from Pink Pill Productions. We invited them at our meetup number 1. They couldn't attend, however, they sent us a video to present. And it was like such an emotional moment for everyone who watched that video. It was a great material. Next one is with your educational initiatives. Here again, the same guys. It's a video that explains how to create a universal profile. And last but not least, your community can help you with code contributions. So here, Tanto DeFi, one of our community members, explains in the video how to go over our boilerplate. So as you can see, there are various ways in allowing your community to amplify your activities. I hope you found this insightful, and I hope you will implement at least one of these key activities to grow your developer relations. Thank you.